Hi kids, welcome to Building on the Rock. Last week we went on a bit of a different turn talking about how David fought off the Amalekites with his men to save his family and their families. But now we should be back to Saul for one last time to talk about his final defeats. As Samuel had said, he would be punished. We begin in 2 Samuel for chapter 1, verses 6 through 16. But then we will have to go back and cross-reference that with 1 Samuel chapter 31, verses 4 through 6. I just happened to be there on Mount Gilboa, the young man said. Saul was there too. He was leaning on his spear. The enemy chariots and chariot drivers had almost caught up with him. Then he turned around and saw me. He called out to me. I said, "What do you want me to do?" He asked me, "Who are you?" "An Amalekite," I answered. Then he said to me, "Stand over me and kill me. I'm close to death, but I'm still alive." So I stood over him and killed him. I did it because I knew that after he had lost the battle, he would be killed anyway. So he took the crown that was on his head. I also took his armband. I brought them here to you. You are my master. Then David took hold of his clothes and tore them. All of his men did the same thing. All of them were filled with sadness. They sobbed over the whole nation of Israel. They didn't eat anything until evening. That's because Saul and Jonathan and the Lord's army had been killed with swords. David spoke to the young man who had brought him the report. He asked, "Where are you from?" "I'm the son of an outsider, an Amalekite," he answered. David asked him, "Why weren't you afraid to lift your hand to kill the Lord's anointed king?" Then David called for one of his men. He said, "Go, strike him down." So he struck the man down, and the man died. That's because David had said to him, "Anything that happens to you will be your own fault. What your own mouth has spoken is a witness against you. You said, 'I killed the Lord's anointed king.'" Now this is a sad story of Saul's death, though he did, in fact, know it was coming and deserved it, but it is not entirely true. If we go back to 1 Samuel chapter 31, verses 2 through 6, the Philistines kept chasing Saul and his sons. They chased his sons Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. The fighting was heavy around Saul. Men who were armed with bows and arrows caught up to him. They shot their arrows at him and wounded him badly. Saul spoke to the man who was carrying his armor. He said, "Pull out your sword. Stick it through me. If you don't, those fellows who aren't circumcised will come. They'll stick their swords through me and hurt me badly." But the man was terrified. He wouldn't do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. The men saw that Saul was dead. So he fell on his own sword and died with him. Saul and his 3 sons died together that same day. The man who carried his armor also died with them that day. So did all of Saul's men. So you see, the man who brought this story to David was in fact right about Saul being dead, but he did not kill him. Saul killed himself. That is another grave failing of Saul, disrespecting the life he was given, but that is not the point we're making here. This man died not because he told the truth that Saul was dead, but that he told the lie that he killed him. He brought this story to David, who still cared for Saul even after Saul tried to kill him time and time and time again. But David knew that this man, Saul, was God's anointed king. He wasn't supposed to be king anymore, but God would be in charge of removing him. And he did remove him, along with his bloodline. So David could reach the throne. But that does not mean it is anyone's place to kill Saul. Not even Saul's. It is God's place to make Saul fall. And fall he did. Saul made a lot of mistakes in his kingly career. A lot of costly ones in not trusting God and not doing what God commanded him to do, which is be righteously angry against God's enemies. But at the end of the day, God is the sole judge of when he should die. We do not get to decide that. And so, with Saul dead and David mourning, it is important to remember all that Saul did and didn't do, but realize that with his passing, good things are on the horizon. Don't worry about what will happen to people who do evil. They will get their time. But when that time comes and something new is coming from God, we should be ready. I hope you enjoyed this lesson this week, and this build's pretty cool. Stick around. Today we're going to be building a little crown and a spear to go in it. The crown is less wearable and more of a stand piece, as a memorial to Saul and his considerable failings. But still, you know, he was a king. So we begin with this green plate piece that we use all the time, and we're going to attach a nougat 2x2 right here at the front middle with 5 studs on these sides and 4 studs back. Once you have that, you're going to attach 2 2x3 brown pieces to here with 2 studs here, 3 studs in front, and 3 studs to the side. Now, with that in place, then you are going to grab these 2x4 pieces in yellow, dark yellow, and attach them here. And then attach a 1x6 piece back here. Once you have that in place, you're going to need to grab a yellow 1x2 with 2 studs on the side, a light blue, a 1x4 connected like so, and a slightly darker blue 2x4 attached to the side studs, and then place this right here. It should be relatively stable, and that's good because then we need to attach 2 2x4 pieces, the same dark yellow we had before, to the side, leaving 1 stud below and 1 stud overhang. And then we attach a pair of 2x2s of light yellow right there to lock those in place. And finally, we go for 2 1x3s, locking those pieces in place. And finally, we attach the final light yellow 1x2 back there. Now, we got ourselves a little crown stand. The spear is a lot easier to make, I promise. Well, I don't really promise, but it should be. Now, we grab 4 2x2 in a tower formation. They're cylindrical and brown, like logs. Then we're going to grab these 2 smaller round pieces in a 1x1, stack them together, and attach that to the bottom of this here with the hole in the middle. So now they're attached in the middle. Once you have that, you're going to grab these gray 2 1x4s and attach them like so. And finally, to finish off your spear, you're going to grab 2 2x2s in light gray and put them on top. Now you got yourself a little spear, and it goes right in the middle here. And it can be pulled out whenever you need a spear. Just, don't stab your neighbors. I hope you enjoyed this build this week, and I'll see you again next time.